Welcome to week 2 of Philosophy 100, Introduction to Philosophy. And this week we're going to be looking at 2 articles that were written by the editors of the volume that's referenced in our syllabus. The first article is entitled On the Study of Philosophy. The second article is entitled Logical Toolkit. And there'll be video lectures this week covering both of these articles, talking about them. As we did before, since we're encountering new philosophers, I'll spend a little bit of time in this lecture talking about one of the authors and editors of this particular piece, John Perry. So I'll tell you a little bit about John Perry's academic career and accomplishments, and then we'll turn our attention to the meat of this article. So we'll look at, first of all, Perry and his co-author's conception of the nature and value of philosophy. And we'll want to look at this in comparison to Russell, because they seem to say things that are quite different from what Russell says. They seem, in fact, to say the opposite of what Russell says on the surface. And so we're going to want to think about whether or not they, in fact, are saying very different things about philosophy. After we discuss the nature and value of philosophy, then we'll turn our attention to some practical advice that they offer students about how to study philosophy, how to do well in philosophy, how to understand and get the most out of the class. Then we'll turn our attention to some of the skills that they think facilitate good philosophy, both the consumption of philosophy with understanding and the production of philosophy. And then I'll finish this lecture with a module that talks a little bit about how the skills that they highlight as important for philosophy, in fact, translate very well into the real world and are beneficial for students outside of the context of philosophy. So, who is John Perry? Well, here's a picture of Perry. Perry's one of the editors of this volume. His full name is John Richard Perry, and he's the Henry Walgrave Stewart Professor of Philosophy Emeritus at Stanford University. He's also a Distinguished Professor of Philosophy Emeritus at the University of California, Riverside. He was born in 1943, and he received his PhD from Cornell University in 1968. Upon receiving his PhD, he began teaching at University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, where he taught until 1974, and then he moved to Stanford, where he stayed throughout his professional career. Perry's research focuses primarily on what's called the philosophy of language, on metaphysics, and the philosophy of mind. So Perry's interested in issues around the nature of and function of language. He's interested in issues about how to study and understand language, so the science of linguistics. He's interested in the nature of the mind, the nature of the relationship between mental phenomenon and physical phenomenon, and he's interested just in general in questions about the nature and existence of everything, metaphysics. He's published 10 books and a cornucopia of articles, and he is quite well known and highly respected within the discipline. He's a member both of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters. And in 1999, he was awarded the Jean Nicot Prize in France for his work in the philosophy of mind. Perry is also the co-director of the Center for the Explanation of Consciousness and the Center for the Study of Language and Information at Stanford University. He also co-hosts a nationally syndicated radio show called Philosophy Talk with Kenneth Taylor. So again, Perry is a well-known, well-respected figure who spent most of his career actually in California in association with primarily Stanford, but also Southern California universities as well. So in the next module of this lecture, we'll turn our attention to that first issue. What is the nature and value of philosophy?